street.
The dedication memorial is?
The cornerstone.
The cornerstone?
And usually a cornerstone is going to contain 3 crucial pieces of information. It's going to tell you the name of the architect designer. It's
Yes.
going to tell you the date that it was completed and dedicated, and probably list the name of the man or woman who was president of the United States at that moment. Our dedication stone is enormous. It's floor to ceiling.
Oh, really?
It lists those 3 things. It also identifies any person or company that gave $1 million, got their name carved into the dedication stone for all eternity. So that's what I mean by memorial building now by corporate sponsorship.
Awesome. Awesome. Well, I'll have to go check that out.
So they held, although the one thing that's wrong about the cornerstone, it gives the dedication date as August 28th, 2011. The dedication for this memorial actually had to be postponed. August 2011 was a very difficult month for us here in Washington. We had a Hurricane Irene and an earthquake that would put the Washington Monument out of commission for nearly the next 2.5 years.
Oh, the earthquake is why it was out of commission. Okay. All right.
So they pushed the dedication ceremony back to October 16th, 2011, which was the 16th anniversary of the 1 Million Man March.
Okay, so they pushed it back to
But it was a much smaller scale event.
Yes.
Fall. You probably remember Obama spoke, President Obama spoke.
Yes, yes, yes.
My favorite speaker, though, was Andrew Young, the former ambassador to the United Nations.
Oh, wow.
He talked about how Dr. King was very sensitive about the fact that he was not very tall. He was really only about my height, 5'6".
Okay.
So most of Dr. King's life, when he was having a conversation with another person, would have to look up to that person.
Yes.
So Andrew Young at the dedication ceremony for the memorial joked, "Now look at him. He's 38 feet tall. Everybody's got to look up to him." So we just walked through the Mountain of Despair.
Yes. The Mountain
It comes
of
as a
Despair.
big surprise and often as no small disappointment to many visitors that you don't find a very obvious, recognizable quote in the memorial from the I Have a Dream speech. It's sort of like building the Lincoln Memorial without the Gettysburg Address. It's just something you expect to find.
Yes.
The foundation in charge of this project, though, consciously chose not to emphasize that speech, instead wanting to emphasize some of Dr. King's other famous pronouncements.
Yes.
The only quote that comes from the I Have a Dream speech is the one right here on the side of this statue. "With this faith we will hew out of the mountain of despair a stone of hope." So we have just traversed through the mountain of despair, and like the stone of hope, we are progressing forward towards Mr. Jefferson's dream of universal equality.
Oh, okay. Okay.
But notice he doesn't look, or we'll see that when we get to the other side of the statue, he's not looking directly at the Jefferson Memorial. He's looking more at the indefinite horizon, towards the future.
Towards the future.
In fact, if you
I
look carefully at the
wondered
statue,
what he was looking at.
He's not finished. You only get the upper half of his body. And so that is sort of meant to symbolize the work that we have to complete yet.
Okay. Well, that's interesting. That is really interesting. So he's not finished.
The most controversial element about this memorial, without a doubt, was the fact that the foundation I've already mentioned, and they were based on the Alpha fraternity that Dr. King had attended in Boston.
Yes.
They were the real spark behind this project.
Yes.
They did not choose an American sculptor artist, let alone an American sculptor artist of color. They chose somebody who was from communist China. And that created a minor firestorm. All kinds of petitions suddenly emerged from all kinds of artists upset with this.
Okay.
Insisting that Dr. King in April of 1968 had gone to Memphis, Tennessee to help sanitation workers with their right to organize. Labor unions are obviously outlawed in communist China.
Okay. Okay.
Among other things.
Yes. 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 Interesting.
Foundation.
So I knew the sculptor was Chinese, but I didn't think about the country being a communist country.
When I first started as a park ranger working in Washington, D.C., there was almost no such thing as tourists from the former Soviet Union or Communist China. Today, it's very routine. And many of our Chinese tourists are literally drawn to this memorial. It's a must-see experience for them because they know one of their own citizens contributed.
Wow.
And if they are going back home with a message of love, hope, and democracy, Dr. King probably wouldn't have too much trouble with that.
Yes.
And finally, I think about the famous photograph of the Chinese citizen confronting the tank in Tiananmen Square.
Yes.
A tremendous act of personal bravery. Really, it's a page right out of Dr. King's nonviolent civil disobedience playbook.
Yes. Yes.
Now, the foundation that was in charge of this project, they would come back with, to the critics of this decision, with the story that they had gone to a sculptor's workshop in St. Paul, Minnesota, where you had all of these internationally famous sculptors brought together, perfect for interviewing prospective artists to do the statue likeness of Dr. King.
Yes.
And as these artists were being interviewed, they would voluntarily tell the foundation, if you really want the best guy for the job, you should go talk to Master Shen. He has worked in the colossal size you see.
Okay.
And so he was really nominated by his fellow artists. And I think what sealed the deal was, as I've already sort of underscored, the big problem in getting this memorial completed was raising the money.
Yes.
So when Master Shen, the sculptor artist, told the foundation he thought he could get a significant discount on a large quantity of granite stone, that sort of sealed. You got an artist nominated by his fellow artists, and you got a discount on the granite. So this is all pink Chinese shrimp granite.
Pink Chinese shrimp granite?
It doesn't have a very pinkish tone today, but it can in certain sunlight. And especially after it rains. And then you see the seams that make up the blocks of stone. These aren't singular pieces, they're numerous pieces put together really like a gigantic puzzle.
Wow.
But ever since then, we've had to endure all of the made in China jokes too. It caused a... Now, the other thing that caused a bit of a controversy, do you have a quick question, or are you just listening in? Yes. Yeah.
Okay, yeah, I would like to.
No, that's okay, that's fine. I do need to warn you, this nice woman is interested in just doing a little bit here, but the tour really is intended to go from here over to FDR and to do, okay. I just wanted to, didn't want to surprise you.
No.
So let's step around to the other side of the statue where we no longer find a quote. But when the memorial was first dedicated in October of 2011, there was a quote.
On that side of the wall.
Yeah, that's the artist. That's Master Shen, the sculptor artist.
Oh, so
Where is
is
it?
he a Chinese or?
Yep. Exactly.
So
his
sculptured
signature.
In his studio in China, and then they shipped it here and put it together like a gigantic puzzle. Master Shen putting the finishing touches on it. His son is a student in Boston.
Really?
Mm-hmm. In fact, it was Master Shen who came back a couple of years ago to remove the quote that was on this side of the statue. It was
Why did he remove it?
It was a gross oversimplification of the quote. In early February of 1968, Dr. King gives a sermon at Ebenezer Baptist Church. Remember, by this time, he's already been stabbed. His house has been firebombed. He's receiving almost constant threats on his life. The civil rights movement itself is tremendously fragmenting by 68, where lots of people are now advocating, as Malcolm X said, any means necessary, no longer willing to go the peaceful path of Dr. King. So Dr. King, in this sermon, publicly talks about his own funeral. It's called the drum major speech. He says, if you want to say I was a drum major for justice, say I was a drum major for justice. If you want to say I was a drum major for peace, for righteousness, all this. So they simply put, I was a drum major for justice, peace, and righteousness. And that made Dr. King sound very self-centered, not at all what he had said, if you want to say. You know, he was very modest and very
they took it out of context.
And so, as soon as the memorial opened in the fall of 2011, Maya Angelou immediately blew the whistle, raised the red flag on this quote, and immediately the Park Service announced that they were going to undertake a study and try to figure out how to put the authentic full quote on the side. So we were just as surprised as anyone when they announced in the summer of 2 years ago that they were going to simply remove the offending passage and leave it blank. The people who made that decision included the sculptor artist Master Shen, who felt if he was forced to carve the full quote, it would somehow weaken the statue.
Okay.
Defer to him in these matters of expertise when it comes to the sculptor arts.
Yeah.
But the foundation that had built it, the King family, and the Park Service leadership decided that that was the best course. So ever since, it was removed just before the 50th anniversary on the March on Washington in 2013.
I have two quick questions. One is this a gift from China or just he is a Chinese? And
Not a gift from China. The sculptor artist was chosen by the foundation from a workshop. He was really, many artists from around the world told the foundation he would be the best person for the job.
And the other is, what's the two pieces mean?
That's the Mountain of Despair, and this is the Stone of Hope. You might have noticed the quote on the other side. That is the only reference in the memorial to Dr. King's I Have a Dream speech, and it's really the overall theme of the entire memorial. People enter the memorial through the Mountain of Despair. You see the Stone of Hope is progressing forward towards Jefferson's promise of equality for all our citizens. So we are making progress. Places like Ferguson and Charleston and Baltimore to the contrary.
Thank you.
Yeah, sure. Now, there are also 14 quotes inscribed on the walls. The walls are actually a green granite that comes from British Columbia, Canada, the west coast of Canada.
Oh.
And 2 of the quotes among the 14 actually come from the same speech, the Nobel Peace Prize acceptance speech that Dr. King gave in 1964, 1 year after the March on Washington.
Yes.
Of course, when Dr. King spoke at the Lincoln Memorial in late August of 1963, that was a return visit for Dr. King. He'd actually spoken from the steps of the Lincoln Memorial for a much smaller event in May of 1957, which was known as the Prayer Pilgrimage on Washington. That was just 2 years after Brown versus the Board of Education. So Dr. King, by August of 1963, was very familiar with speaking from the Lincoln Memorial.
Wow.
So I had mentioned that the statue does not look directly at the Jefferson Memorial. It looks more off towards the distance. And what it turns out is there's a statue. I guess you're not going to come along to see it, but if we're walking over there, you guys will. There's a statue of Eleanor Roosevelt facing in this direction towards the White House. So really, it wasn't planned this way, but it turns out that the statue of Dr. King and the statue of Eleanor Roosevelt sort of face one another.
Interesting.
In 1960, Dr. King had one of his young staff members prepare a letter of thanks to the former First Lady Eleanor Roosevelt, thanking her for her years of dedication to the cause of social justice. Remember, it was Mrs. Roosevelt who had, in anger, resigned from the Daughters of the American Revolution in the spring of 1939 when they refused to allow the world-famous opera singer Marian Anderson to perform in their concert hall here in Washington, D.C. And not only did Mrs. Roosevelt withdraw from that organization, she went public, announcing to the whole world the reasons for her decision, her disagreement with the racial policies of the Daughters of the American Revolution. So she had taken on numerous occasions a bold stand. She was the first to invite African Americans to the People's House, to the White House. Really, the truth is, in 1936, when Roosevelt is running for a second term, that's when African Americans, by and large, as a voting bloc, defect from the party of Lincoln to the party of Franklin Roosevelt. That's when they move from the Republicans to the Democrats. Why? Because they felt through Eleanor Roosevelt they finally had a friend in the White House.
Interesting. That is interesting. And so you know that this year the Daughters of the American Revolution admitted 2 African American sisters. They traced their heritage all the way back to being like one of the founding families.
Yeah.
And so they admitted them.
There's
so
progress.
There's progress. So the
May not
first
be.
two. Yeah.
That's wonderful. Thanks for mentioning that.
Yeah. And I think they're in Massachusetts. Well, I know they're north somewhere. Coastal. I believe they're coastal. So I
Constitution Hall is, you said you just moved to Washington, D.C.
Yes.
There are still wonderful concerts held in Constitution Hall because of its beautiful acoustics. In fact, the architect who designed Constitution Hall would design the Jefferson Memorial.
Oh, okay. Fascinating.
So I think this is the point where now we have to move on to the FDR Memorial.
All right, well, you guys enjoy.
And congratulations on your move.
Oh, thank you. And thank you so much for the tour. Ranger Eric.
My pleasure.
Thank you. Enjoy.
Oh, Ranger Eric, nice to meet you. My name is Tia.
Nice to meet you.
Hi, you guys. So, well, here, I'll give you a better view in the sun. And another day, I didn't know that it was going to be and no, they're fine. I'm pointing up. Yeah. Yeah. So I didn't, oh, what does it say? More or something. Oh, let me go in the shade so I can read comments. And then you can put it back up because I can't see anything. I have to stand in the shade. In the sun, I can't see a thing.
So cooler in the shade too.
Oh, it is. It's huge. Okay, put back up what you said again for me. So, yeah, the tour is an hour and a half, and I don't have enough battery life to walk all around. I mean, I would love to be able to walk over to the Jefferson Memorial and hear the full story. So I will come back and I will do that ranger tour another time so that you guys can get the full benefit. So they're doing an hour and a half tours now. But that's the Jefferson Memorial, and there's supposed to be a statue of Eleanor Roosevelt where their paths cross over there. So, hello, hi, how are you? I can't see your name. I see you saying hi, Janice. So what is your name? Tell me what's your name. I'll put my glasses on, maybe I can see something. Look at the Potomac? You want me to look at the Potomac? That's the tidal basin. MLK. Oh yes, he is he's looking off to the side. Oh, I see what you're saying. So yes, his eyes are cutting. I'm up above. You're not in the shot. I'm way up top. My camera's all the way up at the top. Thanks for sharing. Yeah, you're right. He is looking to the side. What are your thoughts on the statue? Oh my God, I think, well, the Ranger Eric gave us great information. He said that the statue is made of pink Chinese shrimp granite, and at certain times it's pink, and they chose an artist from communist China, which caused a lot of controversy, but I think it speaks to, you heard the story? Yeah. So I think it speaks to the global appeal, because the Chinese now come to see him, and what he represents is democracy and hope. So that's a powerful message that's being shared. What are my thoughts? Well, I mean, I came shortly after it opened, and you know, I attend in Chicago Trinity United Church of Christ, and it is the church where I believe he's an Alpha, where they came and they made a dedication of presenting money for the dedication of the monument. And they did a lot. They had to overcome lots of obstacles to erect this monument to him. And despite that, it is for everyone. And I think that everyone coming to honor him says a lot. And so his work is not in vain. I mean, he went to jail, he was beaten, he had dogs sicked on him. I mean, yeah, so, you know, he's looking down on the progress. The ranger said it's not finished, so the work is not done. That is certainly true. We're not completely there yet, but it's progress. What am I doing? We are looking at the Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. Memorial here in Washington, D.C. Where are you from? Where are you joining us from? Oh, okay. I don't know. Okay. Ohio. Well, pleasure to meet you from Ohio. So, hello from Spain. Welcome from Spain. Nice to have you join us. So, thanks for the hearts. Hi from Paris. Oh, yes. Nice scope. Thank you so much. Sevilla City. Welcome. You say welcome. So please do share this out so others can see it. We have lots of flight path, evidently. So we have lots of airplanes, lots of helicopters. Oh, you're welcome. So please do share and invite others so that they can partake. And I'm going to close down the scope. I do appreciate everybody for joining. Thank you so much. And I will come back another day and do the hour-and-a-half tour that includes the Thomas Jefferson Memorial, as well as walk around the tidal basin. Who is this? This is Dr. Martin Luther King Jr., civil rights leader, orator. Bye. Thanks for joining. See you guys. See you. Bye-bye.